Number 10. Fiery discs in 1440 BC, Egypt. The Tully Papyrus is claimed to be a transcription of an Egyptian papyrus dating from the reign of Thutmose III. The claim originated in a 1953 article published in Doubt the Fortean Society magazine by Tiffany Thayer. According to Thayer, the transcription was sent to him by Boris de Roche-Wiltz, who supposedly found the original transcription of the papyrus among papers left by Alberto Tully. References to circles of fire or fiery discs allegedly contained in the translation have been interpreted in UFO and Fortean literature as evidence of ancient flying saucers, according to Vallee and Obick, since Tully had supposedly copied it during a single viewing of the original papyrus using an ancient Egyptian shorthand, and de Roche-Wiltz has never seen the original. The alleged text likely contained transcription errors, making it impossible to verify. Number 9. Spheres and other shapes in 1561 Nuremberg. A broadsheet news article printed in April 1561 described a mass sighting of celestial phenomena. The broadsheet, illustrated with a woodcut engraving and text by Hans Glosser, measured 26.2 centimeters or 10.3 inches by 38 centimeters or 15 inches. The document is archived in the Prints and Drawings collection at the Zentralbibliothek Zurich in Zurich, Switzerland, which means Central Library. According to the broadsheet, around dawn on 14th of April 1561, many men and women of Nuremberg saw what the broadsheet describes as an aerial battle out of the sun, followed by the appearance of a large black triangular object and exhausted combatant spheres falling to earth in clouds of smoke. The woodcut illustration depicts objects of various shapes, including crosses with or without spheres on the arms, small spheres, two large crescents, a black spear, and cylindrical objects from which several small spheres emerged and darted around the sky at dawn. Number 8. More spheres in the sky in 1566 Switzerland. A series of mass sightings of celestial phenomena occurred in 1566 above Basel, Switzerland. The Basel pamphlet of 1566 describes unusual sunrises and sunsets. Celestial phenomena were said to have fought together in the form of numerous red and black balls in the sky before the rising sun. The report is discussed among historians and meteorologists. The phenomenon has been interpreted by some ufologists to be a sky battle between unidentified flying objects. The leaflet, written by historian Samuel Coccius, reported it as a religious event. The Basel pamphlet of 1566 is not the only one of its kind. In the 15th and 16th century, many leaflets wrote of miracles and sky spectacles. Number 7. Alien boat in 1803 Japan. Utsurobune, meaning hollow ship, also Utsurofune, and Urobune, was an unknown object that allegedly washed ashore in 1803 in Hitachi province on the eastern coast of Japan. When defining Utsurobune, the bune part means boat, while Utsuro means empty or hollow. Accounts of the tale appear in 4 texts: Oshuku Zaki, Toen Shosetsu, Kyoryu Kishu, and Ume no Chiri. According to legend, a young woman aged 18 to 20 years old arrived on a local beach aboard the hollow ship on February 22, 1803. Fishermen brought her inland to investigate further, but the woman was unable to communicate in Japanese. She was very different from anyone else there. The fishermen then returned her and her vessel to the sea, where it drifted away. Historians, ethnologists, and physicists such as Kazuo Tanaka and Yanagita Kunio have evaluated the legend of the hollow boat as part of a long-standing tradition within Japanese folklore. Number 6. 400 unidentified objects in 1883 Mexico. Jose Bonilla was a Mexican astronomer. Knowing he's a scientist, there are going to be lots of measurements and numbers, so bear with me. On August 12, 1883, Bonilla was preparing his telescope for a study when he noticed that objects seemed to be partially blocking the sun. Using a process known as collodion process to capture 447 ink photographs of the objects. Along with his photographs, Bonilla also left descriptions of what he noticed to clarify what the low-quality ink images were showing, as well as a significant amount of data. Bonilla describes the object objects as fuzzy or misty in nature, and often referred to UFOs that had dark tails. He also reported that they were as low as 538 kilometers or 334 miles above ground, as high as 8,062 kilometers, 5,009 miles above ground, between 68 meters or 223 feet and 795 meters or 2,608 feet in length, and between 5.58 times 108 kilograms or 1.23 times 107 pounds and 2.5 times 1012 kilograms or 5.51 times 1010 pounds in mass. That's very exact from those blurry images I'm sure you're looking at right now. Number 5, the miracle of the sun in 1917 Portugal. This one's crazy, so stay tuned. The miracle of the sun, also known as the miracle of Fatima, is a series of events reported to have occurred miraculously on the 13th of October 1917, attended by a large crowd who had gathered in Fatima, Portugal, in response to a prophecy made by 3 shepherd children, Lucia Santos and Francisco and Jacinta Marto. The prophecy was that the Virgin Mary, referred to as Our Lady of Fatima, would appear and perform miracles on that date. Newspapers published testimony from witnesses who said that they had seen extraordinary solar activity, such as the sun appearing to dance or zigzag in the sky, careen towards Earth, or emit multicolored light and radiant colors. Number 4, UFO landing in 1946 Sweden. The Angelholm UFO Memorial is a Swedish monument dedicated to an alleged UFO landing site in the Kronoskogen forest near Angelholm. It includes a concrete scale model of a flying saucer, the purportedly life-size landing impressions on the ground, and copper plaques mounted on pillars. These reflect the account of Swedish entrepreneur Gösta Karlsson, who attributed his success to a 1946 UFO encounter. The memorial, erected in 1972, is maintained by the local government. It has become a tourist destination and is the Swedish National Heritage Board heritage site, RAA Strovelstopp 47-1. Number 3, Flight 105 sighting in 1947 Pacific Northwest. The Flight 105 UFO sighting occurred on July 4th, 1947, when 3 crew members aboard a United Airlines flight reported seeing multiple unidentified objects in the skies over the Pacific Northwest. A week prior, private pilot Kenneth Arnold had reported seeing similar objects nearby, a sighting that was followed by nearly 800 copycat reports during the summer of 1947. 4 days after the Flight 105 sighting, Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release stating that they had recovered a flying disc. That statement was quickly retracted after the crashed object was identified as a conventional weather balloon. Or that's what they want you to think. Number 2, the Battle of Los Angeles. The Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, is the name given by contemporary sources to a rumored attack on the continental United States by Imperial Japan and the subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage that took place from late 24th of February to early 25th of February 1942 over Los Angeles, California. The incident occurred less than 3 months after the US entered WW2 in response to the Imperial Japanese Navy's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, and 1 day after the bombardment of Elwood near Santa Barbara on the 23rd of February. Initially, the target of the aerial barrage was thought to be an attacking force from Japan, but speaking at a press conference shortly afterward, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox called the purported attack a false alarm. Newspapers of the time published a number of reports and speculations of a cover-up to conceal an actual invasion by enemy airplanes. Number 1, the Gorman dogfight. George F. Gorman told the tower that he was going to pursue the object that had appeared to determine its identity. He moved his Mustang to full power, 350 to 400 miles per hour, but soon realized that the object was going too fast for him to catch it in a straight run. Instead, he tried cutting the object off by turns. Gorman made a right turn and approached the object head-on at 5,000 feet. The object flew over his plane at a distance at about 500 feet. Gorman described the object as a simple ball of light, about 6 to 8 inches in diameter. He also noted later that when the object increased its speed, it stopped blinking and grew brighter. After his near collision, Gorman lost sight of the object. When he saw it again, it appeared to have made a 180-degree turn and was coming at him again. The object then made a sudden vertical climb, Gorman followed the object in his own steep climb. At 14,000 feet, his P-51 stalled. The object was still 2,000 feet above him. Gorman made 2 further attempts to get closer to the object, with no success. It seemed to make another head-on pass, but broke off before coming close to his fighter. By this point, the object had moved over Hector Airport. In the control tower, the air traffic controller, LD Jensen, viewed the object through binoculars but could see no form or shape around the light.
At our number 10 spot, we have Sacsayhuaman. Cusco, Peru is home to the ancient fortress of Sacsayhuaman, which stands at an elevation of more than 12,000 feet high. Mainstream archaeologists believe that the Inca built this megalithic site in the 15th century. However, many researchers now think that the foundation of Sacsayhuaman dates back centuries earlier. In fact, some suggest that the Inca structures sit on top of much more ancient rock cuts and megalithic structures that we just don't know who built them. According to conventional archaeology, the older sections of the site were built by the Kyoki culture around 1,000 years ago. However, the Inca themselves believe that the site was constructed by an earlier unnamed race of people led by a powerful god who descended from the skies. This god was named Viracocha and was thought to be the founder of all the ancient sites we see in Peru and Bolivia today. Throughout time, there's been witnesses to Viracocha who visited the South American people and blessed them, giving them all types of technology. The construction of Sacsayhuaman is also a big mystery, as the walls are put together with blocks of stone weighing around 50 to 100 tons, cut and shaped like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle so they can lock perfectly together so tightly that you can't even get a sheet of paper between them. According to a local legend, a bird was also responsible for the seamless construction. Legends say that the winged creature carried a powerful chemical in its beak, which was a substance capable of melting stone. However, it's possible that the mythical bird might actually have been a spacecraft piloted by alien visitors known to the locals as Space Brothers. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, because this one's crazy. At our number 9 spot, we have Pumapunku. In Bolivia, there are mysterious ancient ruins known as Pumapunku that has fascinated archaeologists and researchers for years. Located on a desert plateau, these ruins are made up of dozens of megalithic stone blocks that were cut with extreme precision, some weighing more than 100 tons. The site is nearly 13,000 feet high on the Altiplano of Bolivia, and the massive granite blocks are scattered around the site like children's toy blocks. Archaeologists are baffled by what Pumapunku was, how it looked like, and what its purpose was. One of the most amazing things at Pumapunku is the precision of the blocks there. They have been cut with very accurate right angles and also have difficult drill holes that go right through the rock. According to local traditions, the people who lived at the area at the time believed that the site was not made by them or their forefathers, but by the gods in one single night. One of the earliest chronicles about Pumapunku tells of how giant platforms were moved through the air by the sound of a trumpet and floated into place, much like the Maui on Easter Island that I will talk about later. This has led some researchers to suggest that the ancient people at both sites witnessed the same extraterrestrial technology. So if stone blocks at Pumapunku were once part of a megalithic structure, how did it end up in ruins? At number 8 spot, we have Baalbek. Deep in the Bekaa Valley in eastern Lebanon, there stands an archaeological site that is steeped in history and mystery. That rhymes. The site is home to the ruins of Heliopolis, built in the 4th century BC by Alexander the Great to honor the one and only Zeus, my guy. But there's more to the site than meets the eye. Beneath the Corinthian columns and the remnants of Greek and Roman architecture lie the ruins of a site that is much older. Archaeological studies have revealed that the enormous stone foundation that lies at the base of the site dates back thousands of years. Baalbek, as we know from archaeological evidence, must have existed during the Olympic period between 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, or for some even up to 9,000 years. However, when investigating these stones, many believe they were built by alien technology, each weighing between 800 to 1,600 tons, and were perfectly fitted together. And keep in mind, this area isn't flat land. They had to carry these stone blocks over mountains and other high elevations, which makes this task all the more impossible. At number 7 spot, we have Easter Island. Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, is a remote island located in the South Pacific. Despite being discovered by Europeans in the 18th century, very little is known about the people who once lived there or their origins. However, the most intriguing mystery surrounding Eastern Island is the nearly 900 megalithic statues known as the Maui and why they were put there in the first place. Although the Maui are considered to be only 1,000 years old, It has been established that some of them penetrate deep into the ground to reveal the rest of the body, not just the oversized head we see in some photos. The amount of patination on the Maui also suggests that they could be infinitely older than 1,000 years and could date back to many millennia. This implies that the statues are much older than what history tells us. Archaeologists made a discovery that further clouded the issue. With the help of photography and 3D modeling programs, they found the 13 sunstone hats known as the pakwao on Easter Island. Maui contained a wide diversity of petroglyphs made by what appeared to be different groups of people. This discovery has questioned the idea of what the hats really represent and suggests that perhaps multiple cultures lived on Easter Island throughout the years. Number 6. Nan Madol. Ancient astronaut theorist Georgia Tuscalos and David Childress, along with their guide Gus Kohler and structural engineer Dr. Henry Burden, have visited the ancient site of Nan Madol located on Pohnpei Island in Micronesia. While there, they traveled to the site of Nan Doas, the royal mortuary said to belong to Nan Madol's original builders. Dr. Murden calculated the weight of one of the basalt stone blocks, estimated to be around 54 tons. The people of Pompeii have told the story that Nan Madol was constructed by strange visitors through a process of levitation, which has only suggested to ancient astronaut theorists that Nan Madol is not only an ancient megalithic structure, but an extraterrestrial one. According to legend, the twin sorcerers who created Nan Madol were of great proportions, much like the legends of Easter Island. For decades, mainstream archaeologists have been frustrated by their failure to identify the source for much of the basalt used in the construction of Nan Madol. And according to the oral history of Pompeii, the basalt was taken by what the natives referred to as a giant bird. Some believe that misunderstood technology or machines provided by extraterrestrials were even used to fly the basalt blocks to Nan Madol. But what do you guys think after looking at these photos? Because I don't really know what to think. In the hump gorillas, we have Teotihuacan, Mexico. The ancient city of Teotihuacan in Mexico dates back to at least the 1st century AD. This complex was once the largest city in Mesoamerica with a population of 125,000. One of the most sacred temples at the site is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, which is an enormous step pyramid dedicated to the god Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl was a creator god associated with the planet Venus who brought rain, water, and civilization to the world, and he was often depicted as a flying serpent or a dragon, and according to the Aztec culture, he brought peace, harmony, and high wisdom to the land. His pyramid has a unique feature where on the 23rd of March, when the sun is going up, shadows create the illusion of a serpent climbing down the staircase. And on the 21st of September, the upper side of the Kukulkan disappears. This has led some ancient astronaut theorists to suggest that the pyramid of Kukulkan may have been built to commemorate the arrival of an extraterrestrial spacecraft and not just to honor a mythical dragon god. Number 4. Stonehenge. Situated in the English countryside, this mysterious ring of standing stones has been the subject of countless theories and debates over the years. While some believe that it was simply a burial ground, others have suggested that it served as a place for human sacrifices or even as a sundial. Perhaps the most intriguing theory of all is that Stonehenge was built by aliens. According to this theory, the stones were transported from a quarry more than 125 miles away, which was a feat that early humans just could not have accomplished with their limited technology. Some suggest that a massive labor force may have been able to move the stones using ropes and pulleys, but that explanation definitely lacks the excitement and the mystery of extraterrestrial involvement. Many have pointed to the eerie and otherworldly feel of the site as evidence for these origins. Number 3. The Nazca Lines. In the Peruvian desert, there are more than 800 long straight white lines etched into the ground along with 300 geometric shapes and 70 figures of animals, including a spider, monkey, and hummingbird. These drawings, known as the Nazca Lines, are as much as 2 millennia old, and their age, size, visibility from above, and mysterious nature has led some people to believe that they were created by aliens. After all, how could an ancient civilization have created such large designs in the desert without being able to fly and see it? These geoglyphs were made by removing the top layer of rust-colored rocks to expose the brighter white sand underneath, which is a process that could be easily done by ancient people actually. Early theories suggested that the lines were aligned with constellations or solstices, but some experts believe that the lines were created by the Nazca people, who are known to worship water and fertility gods as a way to communicate with the gods as part of a religious ceremony. It's still incredibly crazy to see the accuracy of some of these drawings, especially from a bird's eye view from a plane. Number 2, the Pyramid of Giza. Wouldn't be an alien building list without the Pyramids of Giza. The Great Pyramids of Giza, located on the outskirts of Cairo, Egypt, continue to mystify modern scientists with their sheer size. Built thousands of years ago, these massive stone structures have stood the test of time and continue to inspire wonder and awe. Despite extensive research and study, questions still remain as to how ancient humans were able to cut, lift, and place thousands of these extremely heavy blocks with such precision and symmetry. Some have even suggested that the answer lies with extraterrestrial beings. Other historians and scholars believe that the pyramids were built by massive labor force of forgotten slave workers, and perhaps maybe the slaves were ordered by extraterrestrial beings themselves. Whether or not you believe aliens were involved in this pyramid construction, these pyramids are definitely a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Coming in at our number 1 spot, we have the face on Mars. Mars is known for its barren red landscapes, massive dust storms, and frigid temperatures. Yet there's a possibility that one day it could host a colony of humans. However, Mars has one particular phenomenon that has kept many people intrigued for years. Introducing the face on Mars. So in 1976, Viking 1, a fact-finding spacecraft, transmitted images back to the Earth of Mars, and amongst the photos was a striking image of a humanoid face imprinted into the surface of the planet. While some scientists claim that the face of Mars is nothing more than just an optical illusion, there are conspiracy theorists who believe that it's proof of alien life. They argue that the face was deliberately carved into the Martian surface by extraterrestrial beings.
Number 10, knock knock. First of all, sound does not exist in space. There's only emptiness. This story is peculiar for precisely this reason. Yang Liwei, the first astronaut launched by the Chinese space program, and I'm sorry if I butchered that name, was purportedly on board his space shuttle in 2003 when he heard a knock. In his words, someone was knocking the body of the spaceship just as one would knock an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. It appears that he is not the only one who has gone through this. Between 2005 and 2008, additional Chinese astronauts also claimed to have heard the same noises. Number 9, moonstalkers. Conspiracy theories flooded the internet after astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first person to set foot on the moon. For starters, it's said that his famous moonwalk was staged in a studio. One of the many conspiracies surrounding this event is still a mystery to this day. NASA reports that after Armstrong touched down on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, transmission was lost for around 2 minutes. And in reportedly a secret message to NASA, he said, "These babies are huge, sir. Enormous. Oh God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecrafts out here, lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon watching us." Number 8, failed instruments. Chris Hadfield's first trip required him and his fellow astronauts to steer a shuttle weighing £250,000 towards a target on the Russian Mir space station the size of a coffee cup saucer. Hadfield's responsibility was to alert the pilot of their speed and range while they were docking. This was crucial since the docking required a great deal of precision. In order to dock, they had a 2-minute window and had to move at a speed of 10 feet per second, plus or minus 0.03 of a second. It would be disastrous if they didn't do it. Hadfield stated that the spring system would bounce you off Mir if you struck it just slightly too softly. If you hit Mir just a little too soft, then the spring mechanisms would bounce you off, Hadfield explained. If you hit Mir just a little too hard, then you would break Mir in half and end the life of 3 people on board. So you've got to hit it exactly right. If the crew on board the flight deck of the shuttle don't solve this problem in the next 30 seconds, then the whole flight is bust and done. Yeah, their instruments went out while docking. Number 7, UFO conundrum. You've certainly seen a number of articles describing astronaut Scott Kelly's difficult journey as he prepared to stay on the International Space Station for a very long period. He later became the astronaut who logged the most time there, but his story is notable for more reasons than just that. Kelly has made comments that imply a close encounter with aliens. Although he hasn't explicitly said it, his quips looked less like jokes and more like something that all of humanity should think about. Similar like the time he said in an interview that aliens have it easier in space than we do. Number 6. Almost poisoned on a spacewalk. When he was making improvements to the ISS, Bob Kerbeam was a seasoned spacewalker. He didn't anticipate a cooling line to burst, spewing poisonous ammonia all over his suit though. Since a spaceship is a closed system, the only air you can use is the air you took with you when you launched. Therefore, an astronaut must be very certain that they are not returning to Earth carrying any hazardous material. Kerbeam needed to halt the leak first. He then had to devise a plan for returning to the space shuttle without contaminating his spacesuit with the dangerous ammonia. Kerbeam dealt with the leak without incident. Even though we were making decisions on the spot, he claimed we understood the hardware, the system, and how it works so well. Because of the training, even if you have to make things up as you go along or perform them on the spot, you can do it intelligently. For an additional 30 minutes, he baked himself in the sun, which is unquestionably one of the most bizarre and scary sunbathing techniques one can undertake. The pollution came as the following issue. With that one, some good old-fashioned science came in handy. He only needed to vaporize the ammonia off of his suit because it has a low boiling point. Number 5. Lights. Leroy Chiao, an American astronaut, and his crew witnessed a group of peculiar lights in outer space while Chiao served as commander of the ISS in 2005. Chiao characterized the pattern as resembling an upside-down V. After it flew by them, the crew and Chiao happened to come across the formation. Despite the fact that some of the information regarding these objects seen in space is available for anyone to interpret, conspiracy theorists may be overly quick to smell the BS here. These tidbits from cosmic history definitely make us wonder, what truly is out there, despite the fact that there isn't much in the way of hard proof just yet. Number 4. See you on the way up. While floating on the International Space Station can be enjoyable, the journey there and back can be challenging, to say the very least. According to Tripson, the Russian Soyuz spacecraft in particular has strong G-forces. According to NASA astronaut Tracy, I've heard it described as a train wreck followed by a car crash then falling off your bike. Prior to her independent flight home from the station, Caldwell Dyson recently said she claimed that after going on the vacation, the rumors were accurate. It certainly didn't disappoint, Caldwell Dyson told Space.com after she arrived. There were all the fringe bells, whistles, and sensations, although certain things' magnitude were a little shocking. Overall, it was a thrilling ride. Number 3. Baby food. Food in space still has room for improvement. Obviously, you've seen the pictures, despite the fact that it is no longer limited to Tang and freeze-dried ice cream. Fresh produce is hard to come by, for instance, and ground foods like bread are unworkable because they generate crumbs that, in microgravity, fly everywhere instead of resting on the floor and make cleanup a mess. Instead, astronauts prefer tortillas because they produce fewer crumbs. Additionally, astronauts often become tired with the same menu of reheatable meals that are rotated every 8 days. However, a robotic cargo ship that was supposed to provide supplies and fresh food to the station was delayed in the winter of 2004. As a result, the Expedition 10 crew, which involved Russian flight engineer Salazan Sharapov and NASA commander Leroy Chiao, had to restrict their meals. The two ultimately reduced their normal meal consumption by half in order to conserve resources, then made up for the missing calories by consuming an excessive amount of desserts and candies. At the time, Chiao stated it wasn't an unhealthy diet, but it wasn't an optimum one either. Number 2. Bones. Astronauts must contend with major health effects from their stay in orbit in addition to their daily inconveniences. The impact on their bones is one of the most important ones. According to a new study, an astronaut's bone strength decreases by at least 14% during a 6-month stay in space. According to other studies, an astronaut's bone mineral density can drop by 0.4% to 1.8% per month while they are stationed there, increasing their risk of fractures and osteoporosis in later life. While there is no permanent solution for this issue, astronauts make a point of performing bone strengthening exercises while they are on the space station and engaging in rigorous rehabilitation once they return to Earth in an effort to prevent having the bones of a 90-year-old. Number 1. All alone. The sensation of loneliness astronauts can have after spending half a year away from the entire globe, especially their family and friends, is perhaps the worst element of living in space. While crewmates and frequent phone calls home might help astronauts deal with loneliness, they occasionally have to miss important events back on Earth. While he was residing on the space station in December 2007, NASA astronaut Daniel Tanney's mother was ended in an automobile accident. Tanney had to grieve while he was in orbit more than 200 miles away, for nearly 2 months until he returned to Earth. And in 2004, NASA astronaut Michael Fink was compelled to miss the birth of his second child when his wife, Tarali, gave birth while he was on a lengthy assignment on Expedition 9 of the space station. When he finally landed 4 months later, he was able to meet his daughter for the first time. Number 10. The Battle of Los Angeles. The Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, is the name given by contemporary sources to a rumored attack on the continental United States by Imperial Japan and the subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage, which took place from late 24th of February to early 25th February 1942 over Los Angeles, California. The incident occurred less than 3 months after the US entered WW2 in response to an Imperial Japanese Navy's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, and 1 day after the bombardment of Elwood near Santa Barbara on 23rd of February. Initially, the target of the aerial barrage was thought to be an attacking force from Japan, but speaking at a press conference shortly afterwards, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox called the purported attack a false alarm. Newspapers of the time published a number of reports and speculations of a cover-up to conceal an actual invasion by enemy airplanes. Number 9. The Maury Island Incident. On July 29th, Arnold interviewed Harold Dahl, who reported on June 21st, 1947, in the afternoon about 2 o'clock, I was patrolling the East Bay of Maury Island. I, as captain, was steering my patrol boat close to the shore of a bay on Maury Island. On board were 2 crewmen, my 15-year-old son and his dog. As I looked up from the wheel on my boat, I noticed 6 very large donut-shaped aircraft. Dahl further claimed that one of the objects began spewing forth what seemed like thousands of newspapers from somewhere on the inside of its center. These newspapers, which turned out to be a white type of very lightweight metal, fluttered to Earth. Dahl reported that a substance resembling lava rocks fell onto their boat, breaking a worker's arm and ending a dog's life. Dahl also claimed he was later approached by a man in a dark suit and told not to talk about the incident. Crispin, when interviewed, reported having recovered debris from Maury Island and having witnessed an unusual craft. Number 8. Covered up. The Roswell incident centers on the 1947 recovery of metallic and rubber debris from a military balloon that crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. Decades later, conspiracy theories claimed that the debris was from a flying saucer, which had been covered up by the United States government. In 1994, the United States Air Force published a report identifying the crashed object as a nuclear test surveillance balloon from Project Mogul. On July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release stating that they had recovered a flying disc. The Army quickly retracted the statement and said instead that the crashed object was a conventional weather balloon. The Roswell incident was not widely discussed until the late 1970s, when retired Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel, in an interview with UFOologist Stanton Friedman, said he believed the debris he retrieved was extraterrestrial. Number 7. The Mantell UFO Incident. On January 7, 1948, 25-year-old Captain Thomas F. Mantell, a Kentucky Air National Guard pilot, passed away in the crash of his P-51 Mustang fighter plane near Franklin, Kentucky, United States, after being sent in pursuit of an unidentified flying object. The event was among the most publicized early UFO incidents. Later investigation by the United States Air Force's Project Blue Book indicated that Mantell had passed away chasing a skyhook balloon, which in 1948 was a top-secret project that he would not have known about. Mantell pursued the object in a steep climb and disregarded suggestions to level his altitude. At high altitude, he blacked out from a lack of oxygen, his plane went downward into a spiral and crashed. Number 6. The Gorman Dogfight. George F. Gorman told the tower that he was going to pursue the object that had appeared to determine its identity. He moved his Mustang to full power, 350 to 400 miles per hour, but soon realized that the object was going too fast for him to catch in a straight run. Instead, he tried cutting the object off by turns. Gorman made a right turn and approached the object head-on at 5,000 feet. The object flew over his plane at a distance of about 500 feet. Gorman described the object as a simple ball of light, about 6 to 8 inches in diameter. He also noted later that when the object increased its speed, it stopped blinking and grew brighter. After his near collision, Gorman lost sight of the object. In the control tower, the air traffic controller, L.D. Jensen, viewed the object through binoculars but could see no form or shape around the light. He was joined by Cannon and his passenger from the Piper Cub. They had landed and walked to the control tower to get a better view of the object. Number 5. The McMinnville UFO Photographs. The McMinnville UFO photographs, also known as the Trent UFO photos, were taken by a farming couple, Paul and Evelyn Trent, near McMinnville, Oregon, United States on May 11, 1950. The photos were reprinted in Life magazine and in newspapers across the nation, and are often considered to be among the most famous photographs ever taken of a UFO. UFO skeptics consider these photographs a hoax, although many ufologists continue to argue that the photos actually depict a genuine three-dimensional unidentified flying object in the sky. Number 4. The Lubbock Lights. Edward J. Ruppelt wrote that the first sighting was reported by 3 professors from Texas Technological College, now Texas Tech University, located in Lubbock on August 25, 1951 at around 9 p.m. According to Ruppelt, they were sitting in the backyard of one of the professors' homes when they observed a total of 20 to 30 lights, as bright as stars but larger in size, flying overhead. Ruppelt wrote that the professors immediately ruled out meteors as a possible cause for the sighting, and as they discussed their sighting, a second similar group of lights flew overhead. According to UFO author Jerome Clark, 3 women in Lubbock reported that they had observed peculiar flashing lights in the sky on the same nights at the professor's sighting. Number 3. The disappearance of Felix Moncla. On the evening of November 23, 1953, Air Defense Command Ground Intercept Radar operators at SALT STE, Mary, Michigan, identified an unusual target over Lake Superior near the Sioux Locks. An F-89C Scorpion jet from Kinross Air Force Base was scrambled to investigate the radar return. The Scorpion was piloted by 1st Lieutenant Moncla with 2nd Lieutenant Robert L. Wilson acting as the Scorpion's radar operator. Wilson had a difficult time tracking the object on the Scorpion's radar, so ground radar operators gave Moncla directions towards the object as he flew. Moncla eventually closed in on the object at about 8,000 feet in altitude. Ground control tracked the Scorpion and the unidentified object as 2 blips on the radar screen. The 2 blips on the radar screen grew closer and closer until they seemed to merge. Assuming that Moncla had flown either under or over the target, ground control anticipated that moments later, the Scorpion and the object would again appear as 2 separate blips. Donald Kehoe reported that there was a fear that the 2 objects had struck one another, but the single blip continued on its previous course. Attempts were made to contact Moncla via radio, but without success. A search and rescue operation by both the USAF and the Royal Canadian Air Force was quickly mounted, but failed to find any trace of the plane or its pilots. Number 2. The Exeter Incident. On September 3, 1965, at approximately 2 a.m., 18-year-old Norman Muscarello was hitchhiking to his home in Exeter along New Hampshire Road 150. Since he did not own a car, Muscarello would hitchhike to and from Amesbury, a distance of about 10 miles or 16 kilometers. After reaching Kensington, a few miles outside of Exeter, Muscarello noticed 5 flashing bright lights in the distance, which he initially thought might be the lights of a police car or fire engine. As he drew nearer to the lights, he saw that they were hovering in the air just above the trees and illuminated a nearby field and 2 houses in brilliant red light. One house belonged to the dining family, who were not at home at the time, the other to a family named Russell. He became terrified as the subject, which made absolutely no sound, began to move steadily towards him. Panicking, he dived into a ditch beside the road. The lights changed directions and hovered over the dining farmhouse. Muscarello ran to the Russell's house, pounded on the door and yelled for help, but no one answered. Number 1. The Phoenix Lights. A widely reported appearance of black triangles involved the Phoenix Lights event, during which multiple unidentified objects were observed near Phoenix, Arizona, and videotaped by both the local media and residents beginning on Thursday, March 13, 1997. Some of the observed objects or lights appeared to be grouped in a large V formation that lingered for several minutes. Some residents reported one of the black triangles to be over a mile wide, and that it drifted slowly over their houses, blocking out the stars of the night sky. An official report from the US Air Force concluded that the military had been locally testing aircraft-launched flares during that time period, but who knows?